Hello everyone, welcome to NLP Metaprograms episode 20, Attention Direction. This is a really important metaprogram for recruitment and business. Essentially, any business that has customers, this metaprogram is important because it enables you to recruit the right people that are going to be customer facing, the people that are in an interface with the outside world. And it's dependent upon where the person's attention goes. And we have two possibilities, attention on self and attention on others. There's no question to elicit this. What we do is we observe the person. We create a situation where we can observe the person where they're acting normally and naturally. So as an example, let's say you were going to do an interview, then, a job interview, recruitment interview, then what you would do is you would create a scenario where you can observe your interviewee before the interview begins. Yeah. So let's say, they come in and they're waiting in reception for a little while, and you arrange for somebody to observe them whilst they're waiting in reception. The person with attention on self will essentially maybe pick up the paper or a phone or whatever it may be, a magazine that's on the table, and they will read it, they'll look at it, they'll look at their phone, and no matter what's going on around them, whether the phone's ringing at reception, whether somebody comes out the lift, whether somebody comes in through the door, they remain totally focused on what it is that they're doing. That's attention on self. Okay? Then attention on others, even if they have their phone or they pick up some papers or a magazine or a journal from the table in reception, and they're reading that, and then the phone goes off at reception and the receptionist answers the phone, they do this. When the call's finished, they go back to looking at what they were doing before. Somebody comes in through the front door and walks through reception. Then they go back to what they were doing. Somebody comes out of the lift. Bing! They watch the person come out of the lift, go to the front door, go out the front door, and go back to what they were doing. That's how we recognize attention on others. Another technique or another strategy, which is in Shelley Rose Charvet's book, Words That Change Minds, which I highly recommend, is that another way of doing this is you walk past the person and you accidentally drop a pen. The person who has attention on others will go, oh, excuse me, you dropped your pen. The person who has attention on self won't even realize that you've walked past, let alone dropped your pen. So why is this important? Well, if we want to put people in a customer-facing role, in some way where they're going to serve our customers, interface directly with our customers, we want the person who has attention on others rather than on self. There was a great example of this. Now, I don't know, because I actually came across this example before I knew about NLP. It actually was written up in I think it's written up in Kotler's book on marketing management, if I remember rightly. It was one of the books I read for my MBA in the late 1980s. And the case study was of SAS, Scandinavian Airlines. And at the time, Scandinavian, I think it was 1980. I don't know if these consultants involved in this were trained in NLP or not. And it's a great example of this metaprogram. In that Scandinavian Airlines was deemed as having the worst service record of all airlines on the planet at that particular point in time. They were in serious trouble. They were, going out of business almost because of customer complaints. So they brought some consultants in, one to diagnose what was happening, and two, work out a solution. And what they found was all of the complaints were for cabin crew, and it was the same cabin crew each time. And from an NLP Metaprograms point of view, the cabin crew that got the complaints had attention direction on self. You know, you're there on the plane, you've pressed the button because you want another glass of wine or a glass of champagne or gin and tonic or whatever it is, and the cabin crew completely ignore you. They're not even aware that you've come onto the plane yet. These are the people that got complaints. So what SAS, Scandinavian Airlines, actually did was move those cabin crew into other roles within the organization. But now they needed to recruit cabin crew that had attention on others. And the consultants did one thing only, just one extra step in the recruitment process, which was, if you were going through the recruitment process to be cabin crew with SAS, you had to do a presentation. So there'd be a group of people going through the recruitment process, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And you had to do a very short presentation about a hobby or an interest to the other people who were going through the recruitment process. Of course, what everybody thought was that they were being evaluated on their presentation skills. But no, they were being evaluated on how they behaved in the audience. The people who just sat there, you know, working out their own presentation and ignored the presenter the entire time, attention on self, didn't get recruited. The people who sat there and were glued and riveted to every single presenter that was speaking, attention on others, got hired. Now, that had a life-saving effect on SAS Scandinavian Airlines because, as you know, they're still around. In fact, recently, SAS Scandinavian Airlines actually won a Best Service Award for an airline. I don't know how much that one Metaprogram was worth to Scandinavian Airlines. It saved their business. It moved them from worst service record to best service record, just one Metaprogram. So this is really important from a recruitment point of view. Now, I was just thinking about this just before I was going to put together this video, because this used to be pretty much like 50-50 across the population. And I was wondering about what impact these things, you know, mobile devices, tablets, etc., have had on this Metaprogram. The reason why I asked that is, you know, I was going in on the train just the other day, and I changed trains at a station in London called Clapham Junction. Now, Clapham Junction used to be one of, if not the busiest station in the world. I think it's got more than 30 platforms, and it's a major intersection between a lot of different lines. And I needed to, and it's got a big tunnel underneath all 30 platforms where you walk to change from one line to another line. And it was rush hour. And I hadn't been there for quite some time. And the impact the kind of like experience I had was walking against this wall of people coming towards me. And because I was going the opposite direction to the exit, and everybody coming towards me was like this. And total attention on self, you know, complete shutdown of attention and awareness outside of your self. So I wonder if now we'd have more of a skew for this. I mean, here's another interesting thing just today. I put a post up for an event I'm very excited about on the 8th of June here in London. It's a very different event, and I wanted to get people's attention. So what I did was I actually called the event Sex, Money, Power, you know. And then there's a short video, it's only a minute, which actually explains why I used those three words as a means of getting attention onto the event. Because it's a great, you know, those three words change the way that people feel very, very quickly, which is really one of the things that NLP and neuro-linguistic programming is all about. Well, actually, that email and that post has been reported a number of times as being offensive, which means that either people just didn't watch the video at all, or they didn't watch the video to the end, and it's only a 1-minute video. So, not only do we seem to have had our attention shut down and go into ourselves as a result of these, but equally our attention span has been dramatically reduced. It's almost like attention deficit as a result of mobile devices and those kind of things. It's an interesting thing as far as that's concerned. So there we go. Very important metaprogram. As I say, no question for it. You just observe people in their natural habitat, so you can actually pretty much work out, even if you're walking through a park and people are sitting on park benches or whatever, in a hotel lobby or anything like that, you'd be able to elicit what somebody's attention direction metaprogram was. So I hope that was useful. And we've got a holiday weekend here in the UK, so we get the Monday off as well. It's a long weekend, 3-day weekend. So if you're here in the UK, then have a fantastic weekend. If you're elsewhere in the world, have a fantastic weekend as well, but probably it's only going to be 2 days rather than 3. And see you next week for episode 21. I'm going to do 2 metaprograms next week because they're related to each other. Vitally important metaprograms in relationships, whether that's personal relationships, as in intimate relationships, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, but also business partnerships. Really good ones. I'm going to do 2 next week because they're related to each other, and I want to give you all of that in one episode. So I'll see you next week. Have a great week and a great weekend.